Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Science Mind class this morning. I'm Dr. Petra. And man, am I happy that you're with us this morning, with me this morning, with Richard. That's the royal we. That's the Ryan, Richard, and Petra we. And we're just really happy to be with you. I was thinking, as I was driving over here this morning, truly my two favorite times of the week, no holds barred, is Wednesday night, meditation, metaphysics, and Sunday morning, this class. I love our celebration. I love all the other things we do, but I love being here with you and working through this fabulous material. So, as Ryan has put in the chat, we are on page 175, for those of you who are following along. If you're not, it's fine. I'll be just reading to you, so it'll be all right. We've been talking about mental and spiritual healing, and we're in the chapter on mental and spiritual treatment. And we talked last week about a demonstration. What is a demonstration? And that a demonstration is when the thing that we're doing our spiritual work around, doing our spiritual mind treatment around, actually manifests in the world in objective reality. This is one of the really extraordinary things about metaphysics and the science of mind, is that there is a deep expectation that our spirituality actually causes us to move differently in the world, and we expect for it to produce what has in the past been called miracles. We expect that it increases our ability to create a meaningful life that is fulfilling and in alignment with the spiritual truths that we espouse, and that we should be able to live more wholly, more lovingly, more peacefully, more joyfully, and more fulfilled in a way that really allows us to express the truth of our being and our gift in the world, and to create something really quite wonderful. It doesn't mean that we're not ever going to have challenges or problems. That would be silly. It does not mean that. What it means is that we have a way to engage with those challenges and problems, find our way through, and we have a way to create something that isn't in our lives yet. And we expect it to demonstrate. We expect changed conditions, or a new outcome, or successful resolution. We expect not only physical demonstrations in our bodies in terms of healing. We expect physical demonstrations in terms of a more successful business, or a healthier relationship, or a personally deep inner peace, or an experience of a greater connection with the one, right? We expect, and these demonstrations have to be verifiable, right? It's not just about saying, oh, it's all good, as if we could turn a blind eye to it. It is about saying, I'm doing my spiritual work, and I'm going to continually expect the demonstration to verifiably show up. So we're not afraid to look over time at our bank account and see it rising. We're not afraid to go to the doctor and have the test again and see that the tumor is shrinking or has gone away. We're not afraid to continually put forward things in our business and expect results. There is a way of doing that, of course, that isn't about daily going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, is it working? Is it working? I don't know, is it working? Is it working, right? Not that, but a deep expectation that our spiritual work is in fact manifesting something, and that we're not afraid to verify it. On the other hand, we cannot say that our treatment has been effective and continually suffer the same outcome that we're trying to change, right? Our treatment has not yet manifested. If we are still doing spiritual mind treatment about peace, and we're not peaceful, or we're still doing spiritual mind treatment about healthy relationships and we don't have them, right? Now, sometimes, of course, it can take time to shift consciousness and shift things around in the world, but yeah, it's not enough just to say it. So this is what we are, sometimes I just love the way Ernest Holmes talks about metaphysics, and one of the reasons why the science mind speaks to me so deeply is that he pulls no punches. So in 175, this is a fabulous closing section to this whole thing we're reading. Let us not fool ourselves. We should not fool ourselves about any demonstration. We know there is a state of consciousness which can heal instantly, but if we do not arrive at this in a moment, we should never admit defeat, right? We should just keep carrying on. The kind of demonstration we believe in is the kind that can be checked by a physician or in any other form. However we want to check it over the course of something either healing, changing, or growing. And so I love this. This is a couple of paragraphs further down. While it is possible that we might have to work on a case for some time, there should be some sign of improvement from the first spiritual mind treatment. If the practitioner, that's any of us, giving a spiritual mind treatment, admit to ourselves that it is going to take a long time, then we are losing sight of the fact that we are dealing with an instantaneous now and an ever-present here. Right? So we may understand that there's a law of growth, but it doesn't have to be, we don't want to place the limitation of a really long time on it. One of my favorite examples about this is broken bones. I have actually seen somebody heal a break pretty instantaneously. This was many years ago at a conference, CBEC conference, and a boy had fallen off a swing and broke his arm, actually pretty significantly, so that you could like literally see that how the arm was no longer straight. I mean, it wasn't just a fracture, broke. And a number of people gathered around, did spiritual mind treatment, straightened the arm out, and by the time that he got to the hospital, the break was almost completely healed. It's really an extraordinary moment. I've witnessed and seen some really amazing and been a part of some really extraordinary healings. That's a really powerful place of belief. Mostly what I see, especially with things like broken bones, like, well, you can't heal a broken bone instantaneously. Well, there is the limitation of the thought. But what I've seen is over and over again, people who have healed their bones in way faster than any physician ever expected. So, as you know, Reverend Karen broke her ankle last year, and they said, oh yeah, 8 weeks, and then you can start really seeing that it has healed, and you can start really using it. And the truth is, at 6 weeks, they took x-rays. They could no longer even see where the break had taken place. It was so completely healed. And the doctor just was like, wow. That's astonishing. Well, we're not astonished, right? The demonstration has to be visible, it has to be recognizable, and it has to be verifiable. So we don't want to place undue limitations on our spiritual mind treatment. And yet we also know that there are things that do have the law of growth involved. So if we're building a business, or we're deciding to get a degree, we're going back to school, we're raising a child, right? We can use our spiritual mind treatment to really move things forward, to know it goes well. We can use it on specific aspects along the way. We can affirm in our spiritual mind treatment that it goes quickly and effortlessly, and that we get there maybe faster than we had expected. But some of those things actually do, in fact, require time. what we want to be able to see is along the way that there are incremental, that there's incremental movement, and we want to expect it, and we want to be able to document it. We don't want to be afraid of looking at it. And if it's not yet showing the outcome that we expect, never admit defeat, right? We never admit defeat. We don't give up. As Michael Beckwith says, delay is not denial. Our theory rests entirely upon the supposition that it is impossible to have a true subjective concept without there being a positive, absolute, and equal objective fact. The two will exactly balance, right? And we use terms like the law of cause and effect. The subjective concept is the cause, and the absolute equal objective fact is the effect. We talk about the idea of mental equivalence. You have to have an equivalent in consciousness to that which you want to outpicture in the world. For every action, there is always an opposite and equal reaction. If this is true, and the equal and opposite reaction is automatic, like a reflection which cannot stop, with which nothing can stop, the practitioner, the person doing the spiritual mind treatment, does not need to try to create the reflection. He tries to embody the image. Now, this could not be more critical. In our spiritual work, in our spiritual mind treatment, we recognize that consciousness is cause. We are not manipulating the conditions. We're not trying to figure out how the outpicturing out here is going to happen. We're not trying to figure out what steps need to be taken. We're not trying to learn everything we possibly can so that we can figure it all out. We are working to embody the image, the inner idea, the inner reality. And notice that he says the embodiment of the image. So it's not the belief in a concept. It's not the intellectual understanding of an idea. It is the embodiment of the image. I don't think we spend nearly enough time talking about how important our imagination is in this process. You know, we speak about the word, and we speak about speaking our spiritual truth. But the words are simply describing something that we hold in our mind's eye. And our mind's eye is our imagination. And for our imagination to fully embrace something, we have to see it, feel it, sense it, embrace it, accept it. In other words, embody it. Now, this does not mean that everybody imagines visually. Some of us just get little flashes of the image, but we get a profound feeling of the thing we're imagining. We get a sensation around it, or a sense of it. And there's an inner acceptance of that as a reality. So it's not just imagination like as in imaging in our visual mind's eye. So I think there's a couple pieces here that I think we don't spend enough time on. First of all, the power of imagining, right? Because what does imagination do but make it real for us, right? Have you ever imagined something so horrific that you ended up having the visceral experience as if it were happening? Yeah, because our brains can't tell the difference between a real and imagined experience, right? And an imagined experience isn't just sitting back and saying, oh, I'm peaceful. An imagined experience is imagining in our minds and in our bodies peace. We might call up images that feel peaceful to us. We might remember times when we've been really peaceful. We might use breath techniques or physical things that allow our body to become peaceful, and all of those things working together create an imagined experience of peace because we're doing it on the inside. And what does that mean? That means it's not conditioned on anything in the outside. That means we can be peaceful like that in the midst of crisis and turmoil, in the midst of grief and pain. That doesn't mean that crisis or turmoil or grief or pain isn't happening. It means that we have a locus of peace from which we can now deal with what's going on. Do you see? I love this. Try to embody the image. There cannot be an embodiment of the image without the appreciation of what the image means. I will tell you that 90% of the time in my spiritual mind treatment, I am working to revel in the imaginative experience I'm creating for myself. Remember that in spiritual mind treatment, we are not doing anything to some deity out there. We're not doing anything to the universe. We're not doing anything to anything out there. Our work 100% is done in our own consciousness to create a new embodied experience within us, which the universal principle of cause and effect will automatically use to create a different experience or a new experience. Do you see? I think this is again one of those places where when we do our spiritual work, we think, well, I have to do the right words so that the universe will be pleased, the law will like it, right? And all we've done is we've just covered up our idea that somehow it's a God out there we're working with. And if I can just do my spiritual mind treatment right, then God will favor me with an answer or with a manifestation, right? That's not how it works. All of the work is done in here. And so we want to, we cannot embody an image without the appreciation of what the image means. And what I think he's trying to say there is that what it means, meaning what it feels like, what it would look like in the world, all of the ways in which we take it on and really imagine. Well, let's say we embody the image of being abundant. What that would mean is we would never again speak about how much poverty we're experiencing. Or we would never again talk about how hard it is to make money. Because we would appreciate what the image means. If I'm that abundant, I don't need to have those other conversations. If I'm that healthy, if my health is so fully embodied that I can appreciate what that inner sense of my perfect health is, right? What that means is I'm not afraid to go to the doctor. I'm not afraid to do what I need to do. I'm not afraid to get run away with all the really, really, really horrible things that could happen. Do you see? And so it cannot be an embodiment of the image without an appreciation of what the image means. A man who is always distraught cannot give a treatment for peace. We have to move into a peaceful place to give a treatment for peace. We use the treatment to move ourselves to the peaceful place so that we can finish the treatment of peace. So there must not only be the image in one's mind who is giving the treatment, but there must be appreciation for what the image means before the image can reflect itself. Otherwise, it is a word and not an embodiment. There is a great difference between the two. The word which carries power is the one which has conviction behind it. Let us not blithely repeat words and say the treatment has gone forth and the healing work accomplished unless we have the evidence that our word has accomplished that whereunto it has been sent. Let us not deceive ourselves about our treatments. So I'm going to ask for questions, comments, sharings here momentarily. What really catches you on this? How do you work with really building that internal embodiment. What keeps you from feeling that internal embodiment? But I do want to close with this right at this moment, this last little bit, because it's just so straightforward. Right? Here it is. This matter of self-deception about the truth of a demonstration is the most prolific field of delusion in our system of thought. There is nothing in all our teaching which calls for lying to ourselves or others. The more natural we can be, the more spontaneous we can be, and the more we can discharge the obligation of giving the treatment without taking on the responsibility of healing the condition, of putting the power into the treatment, the more power we shall have. So it's not just about saying it's all good and then pretending that everything is fine. No. Elsewhere we say we look a fact in the face and we deny its spiritual truth. We embody a spiritual realization about it. Okay, so I just love this part, right? Because we have to demonstrate. We should expect to demonstrate. We should expect those miraculous things to happen. We should expect to attract coincidences and serendipities and exactly the right person or the right idea. We should expect to see a change. And if we are not yet seeing the change, the work we do is in here. It is within our own consciousness and our own ability to imagine, right? Right now, sometimes I hear people say, I'm just skeptical that anything's going to change about healing racism in America. Well, let us embody the mental image of that healed and stand in that unequivocally, never admitting defeat. Absolutely standing with that, right? Whether it's a global issue, climate change, let us stand in that place where we imagine it differently, as opposed to just saying, well, there's nothing that can be done. Well, it's always been this way. Well, it's always going to be this way, right? It's no different than the things that we say in our own lives about how things are. Okay, so we want to expect the demonstration, and then we want to verify the demonstration. All right, so that was a big giant mouthful, and I'm going to turn to Ryan and see, Ryan, if there are comments or questions or things that we might talk about.
Thanks, Petra, and yeah, that was a big giant mouthful, but it was a good point, and I'm glad that you made it. So I do have somebody, Cecilia. Do you want to go ahead and just unmute yourself?
Hi, Cecilia. Almost Dr. Cecilia.
Yes. So when you were talking with the big giant mouthful of information, you also asked the question of what are ways in which you experience having trouble embodying the outcome. And what I've noticed is I've had several friends reach out to me and ask me to pray, and those that know spiritual mind treatment, they have asked me for spiritual mind treatment. Usually when someone asks me to pray, I go ahead and do treatment for the highest and best because I know it works.
Right.
And I had a situation where, and it caught me. It was actually last night. One of my friends reached out to me, and I was it was really late, and I was really exhausted, and I'd had a pretty bad headache yesterday, and so I was really exhausted, and I was trying to do the treatment, and I struggled to embody what I know is spiritual truth.
Right.
And so it caught me that when mentally I am not really physically connected in my own body, or I'm tired, I feel less like the treatment has worked. I feel less like it's a part of who I am.
Yes.
When I'm less tired, I feel like this sense of completion, like this sense of it's done. There's no question about it. And I just was really struck with how different I felt doing that treatment last night for my friend's dad, and it was very interesting. So
Beautiful.
That was something I experienced.
Yay. Cecilia, thank you so much for sharing that. And what a great juxtaposition for you to have for yourself, right, in your own life. And for all of us to think about that there are absolutely times when it is challenging to do the work. Why? Because spiritual mind treatment is not something we do in a relaxed state. Maybe I should rephrase that. Spiritual mind treatment is something that we do with inner alignment, but it is a very alert, awake, deliberate, intentional work. And we may be overcoming our own belief in the condition. We may be overcoming our own concern about what we're doing the treatment for. We may be overcoming a lot of things in our own consciousness to really embody, or just taking the time to really embody the image in its fullness and not just dash off some words. And Cecilia, you say something really important. When we're sick or tired or hungry, or these can be times when it's actually a little challenging to do that kind of disciplined mental work. And so one of the things we can do, right, is we can do the treatment to the best of our ability, and then the next morning get up and do the treatment again, and then the next afternoon get up and do the treatment again, right, till we are in a place where that treatment really does, in fact, come together. And why can we do that? Because in the universal presence, in the absolute reality, there's only here and now. Only here and now. So just like it doesn't matter that the treatment that you were doing for your friend's father, your father wasn't right there, you weren't laying on hands, you weren't sending energy, you weren't actually physically engaged. So that person didn't actually need to be in the room with you, right? Because in the infinite reality, in the infinite universe, there's only here and only now. And so whether we do the treatment right when we're asked to do the treatment, or we do the treatment a little bit later when we're no longer so tired, the universe knows who we're doing that treatment for and when that treatment is for, even if the treatment was in the past, in our linear space-time. The other thing is that sometimes I notice when I'm sick, which is of course the way that my body says, hello, you're not taking care of me. I just end up in bed for a couple days. And I find that a very difficult time for me to do treatment for myself, because I just feel bad, and then I feel pitiful, and then I want somebody to take care of me, and then I don't want to do it. So that's one of the many times and places that I reach out to a practitioner, right? Because they're not inside my experience. And so it's okay. It's okay to ask for that kind of help and support and say, I don't have the mental wherewithal to do the treatment right now. Will you do it for me? So thank you, Cecilia. Really, really worthwhile to see those kinds of things. Not only what kinds of personal situations keep us from really being able to embody a treatment, tired, hungry, not feeling well, but also feeling maybe too close to the person or too close to the issue, having challenges around that, right? Do not ever be concerned about asking for help. That's why we have spiritual practitioners, spiritual coaches, and ministers who are available to do that for you when you have that moment where you feel like I tried a treatment and I didn't feel it. I didn't really embody it. So thank you. Yeah. So what? Well, there's two questions really, right? One, how do you know when you've really embodied an image in a spiritual mind treatment or in any other time and place? And what else might keep you from really embodying what you're saying in your spiritual work in a spiritual mind treatment? Okay, Ryan, we'll turn to you.
Thanks, Petra. So I have a question here off Facebook, and I think it's a really great question. It comes from Deborah. She asked, does feeling good have anything to do with the effectiveness of the treatment?
That is a great question. I would say that feeling good, I'm assuming we're talking emotionally feeling good, that feeling good is one of the possible outcomes of a really powerful spiritual mind treatment. I do have to tell you that there are times when I do a spiritual mind treatment and it feels to me as though I am so exhilarated that when it's over, that I wonder if I'm actually not just levitating off my chair. But I will say that I don't always feel that way, and that's not always required. Sometimes I get out of my spiritual mind treatment and I feel utterly determined. There is not a thing that's going to stand in the way of this spiritual mind treatment. And so I want us to, I notice with a lot of people when we start doing spiritual mind treatment that we tend to use a soft angelic voice because we think it's more spiritual, because it's peaceful and it's quiet and it's soft and it's lovely and we're going to paint a lovely picture. And well, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I have been known to pound my fist in a spiritual mind treatment. This is the truth. Right? Conviction, passion, owning it, embodying it. So feeling good, you don't actually have to have any emotion in your spiritual mind treatment at all. And you don't have to have any emotion as a result. Right? You don't have to feel anything in terms of an emotion. What we want to feel is our profound conviction that we are using principles, we are using them correctly, we are embodying the outcome, and nothing is going to stand in the way. And so, yeah, sometimes my feeling is of profound determination. Sometimes my feeling at the end of a spiritual mind treatment is of deep relief because I have cleared out whatever has been nagging or gnawing at me around it, whatever conversation I've been having around it, wherever I've gotten caught in, being a victim or blaming or wishing it were different than it was or blah, 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 all that stuff, right? All that has gone away because I have done my spiritual work and realigned myself with spiritual truth. And so I may feel relief. I've been known to laugh out loud at the end of a spiritual mind treatment, just in the sheer joy of it and exuberance of it. So again, no particular you're not searching for an emotion. You're not searching to feel something emotionally. I think that is a mistake. It is the embodiment and the acceptance of the reality of the thing that we're speaking about, and our deep conviction that a demonstration is assured, that we know what we are doing. We're using spiritual laws. We're aligning ourselves, and this is why we teach the 5 steps, right? Because it gives us the scaffolding, the framework within which to align ourselves. We remember what's true about the universe, about infinite reality, about absolute reality. We remember the spiritual principles that most apply in this particular moment about this particular thing. We remember that actually is true about us, because the life that is living us is the life that lives the universe. And that we're a place where that life is becoming conscious and aware of the fact that it can use these laws and principles deliberately, intentionally, consciously. And then we do the work to speak our word and embody the image. All right, Ryan, I see that there's another comment.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask Connie. Connie, do you want to just unmute yourself?
Hi, Reverend Petra.
Hi, Connie.
Good morning. Hi. I do spiritual mind treatment for my Sangha sisters and myself every morning. pretty much first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm finding is, and I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of changing it, but this talk you're doing today is so helpful. Sometimes, maybe more than sometimes, when I do spiritual mind treatments for my Sangha sisters and for myself, my mind wanders away to what am I going to do this afternoon, or how about that student, or da-da-da-da-da, and my mind pulls,
Yes.
and I'm still saying the treatment, but
Yes.
I'm not there.
Yes.
And then I know that makes it ineffective.
Yes. Yes. And thank you for acknowledging that, Connie. Right? We all do that. I've been doing treatment for 40 years and I still occasionally do that. And so thank you so much for saying that out loud, right? And so I would say a number of things. One, this is why we develop a meditation practice. One of the many reasons why we develop a meditation practice, right? Because meditation teaches us control of our brain so that on the one hand, when it wanders off, we can bring it back to the spiritual mind treatment without any problem. And two, the more we do that, the less it's likely it is to wander off. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is one of the reasons why it is so powerful to do our spiritual mind treatment out loud, right? To do that work out loud, because it is much harder to wander off if you are doing it out loud. And additionally, I think this is why we stress words so much in a spiritual mind treatment. Because when you are seeking to describe something to yourself in words and not just like swim in the feeling or the soup of it, by deliberately describing it to yourself in words, that actually keeps your brain from going off and then making your grocery list and thinking about what you have to do, because you've given your brain something to do. You're telling it to describe to you this feeling that you are, and this embodied image that you are creating within yourself. You're using the words partly to reinforce it, to give it structure and definition and really be clear about it so that you can even more embody and image it. But it's much harder. It's much harder to start drifting off. And so the sheer fact of describing it to yourself in your own mind is really powerful. But it's doubly powerful to do it out loud. There's the old Christian prayer that a prayer sung is twice prayed. So the other benefit of that is that you actually are using two of your senses to more powerfully accept the treatment. Because you're not only speaking it, but you're also hearing it at the same time. So that is an extraordinarily powerful way of creating a more embodied experience. I had a really good friend of mine years and years and years ago. She was a much better typist than me. And so she would sit down in front of the computer. She would sit down in front of the computer, close her eyes, and she would type out her treatment. And let me tell you that some of her treatments were some of the most powerful treatments I had ever experienced. Why? Because when you're doing that, you cannot drift off anywhere. Utterly focused. And she talked about the power of sitting there and typing out her treatment with her eyes closed. And sometimes the treatment would be, 2 pages long, single spaced. But that's the work that she was doing to describe to herself this that she was remembering and embodying and imagining and creating that inner experience. Do you see, I think we make a big mistake that when we brush off, oh, it's just an intellectual exercise. I don't really do words, and it's not about the words anyway. Well, of course it's not about the words, right? We use the word, and when it's the word capitalized, what we mean is an embodied truth that is so defined, it's unmistakable. And it is so unmistakable that our whole being acquiesces to the truth of it, right? And in that moment, we're aligned in spiritual truth, and the law says, oh, well, of course, boom, and manifests it for us. So if you find yourself drifting off, that's another thing. And then the third thing I would say is, Connie, I love that you talked about your Sangha, right? We have Sanghas here. All of our Sanghas, or most of our Sanghas now, are online. If you want to create a Sangha, which is basically a group of people that get together and do spiritual mind treatment for each other. And for their lives on a regular basis, and provide deep and profound spiritual support for each other. If you want to be in a Sangha and aren't yet, you can email Reverend Patty, Rev Patty, with an I, at CSLDallas.org, and she will help you find one. So there is something really powerful about practicing spiritual mind treatment in a group with others. Keeps you focused. Keeps you committed to doing that spiritual mind treatment in between times. Now, I personally I can get so wrapped up in my own life that 3 days will have gone by and I won't even have realized it. I'll have blinked and like 3 days have gone by. And I maybe haven't done my spiritual mind treatment the way I would like to. So one of the things that I do that really helps me is I have 3 prayer partners. So 3 out of 7 days a week, I start my morning with a call in which we do spiritual mind treatment for each other. And I've been doing that, for years now, years. And I can't imagine my life without it. And there's always something to do spiritual mind treatment about, right? Sometimes it's about, something I'm trying to accomplish that week, and other times it's, I want to see peace in the world, and other times it's about my business, and sometimes it's about a member of the family, or somebody's asked me for spiritual mind treatment. There's always something to do treatment. A lot of times it's about whatever is coming up personally in my own life that I'm confronting, I'm needing to heal, some inner false belief that, just recently, and it just actually this week in my prayer partner call, it brought me completely to tears when I realized, and I'd never realized this before, that when I do self-care, I feel a deep sense of guilt. And I was like, what? Where in the world did that come from? So that was the spiritual mind treatment, releasing the guilt of taking care of myself. And right, and then right then and there, boom, powerful, powerful spiritual mind treatment. And now I'm doing that treatment for myself to continually to embody the image, appreciating what the image means. So I am working to appreciate what the image means, to really own internally self-care without guilt, that there's no guilt associated with it. And occasionally a flash will come up about something from my past, or not really sure where all that comes from, quite truthfully. And it's okay, I don't need to know. What I need to know is that that's the false belief that I have. And so now I'm ferreting out that false belief. Every time I do that treatment, I'm weeding out more of that false belief. And I'm digging it out, and I'm replacing it with a spiritual belief that says, well, of course, the universe takes care of itself. How can I not take care of myself? The universe is constantly taking care of itself. And if I want to be there for others, I have to take care of myself. So it's just, so anyway, that was complete aside, but the power of prayer partners, the power of spiritual mind treatment, and to have that person. And again, I can't possibly drift off into, some other conversation when I'm on the phone doing out loud treatment for someone else and they're doing out loud treatment for me. Because my job when somebody's doing spiritual mind treatment for me is to just agree, to say yes, I accept this as the truth of me, and to I don't have to be hearing the spiritual mind treatment, but when I am hearing it is to allow myself to go along with it and to ride in on it. All right, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Petra. I think at the end of this, we would all love to hear a spiritual mind treatment.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
That would be a great idea, so I'll flail my arms about and remind you. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to call up Jeff. Jeff, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hi, good morning, Petra.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. I'm inspired. You hit the nail on the head, I think, for me, because I had this question in my mind, and you kind of, in a way, you kind of anticipated my question. I want to take it another step further. Some days when I do spiritual mind treatments, I find it, writing it out to me is, for me, it's much more powerful because I kind of focus on the steps, and my mind kind of embodies or encircles the main points, so that I add other sentences and other fillers in that to make it more meaningful and more powerful for me.
Beautiful.
And I'm also aware that other days I get discouraged, maybe especially during, I'm noticing that I'm crying a lot with this coronavirus, and people dying and people suffering, and the lack of leadership, et cetera, and I feel an empathy that I've not recognized. I guess I'm developing an empathy in these last 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. And that's wonderful, because I've always wanted to not only feel happy, but I want to feel everything.
Right.
So I'm getting my wish, I guess. But when I'm not feeling empowered, when I'm not feeling excited and passionate, but I'm feeling discouraged, like, well, who am I? And it's not only a matter for me of judgment or feeling guilty. For me, it's a feeling of unworthy. I mean, sometimes I'll hear the words inside of me, again, from old tapes and old limiting beliefs, that who do I think I am? I still hear, my mother sometimes in my family background say, who the hell do you think you are, kind of thing. So during those times of feeling unworthy as well as guilty for the people that I've hurt in the past, what do you do? And I think I heard you say, well, I call a prayer partner, but it is at those times, do I just wait and accept the fact that I'm not feeling powerful today and maybe wait till tomorrow, or do I pick up the phone, or do I do a treatment anyhow in spite of that, and say in the treatment that, hey, I am part of this one mind, and I am part of this spirit, and perfection, and I am a perfect expression of spirit, and I am worthy, and I am that I am, pound the desk a little bit, and maybe walk around yelling.
Yes.
To affirm that,
yes.
To overcome that feeling. So.
Yes. I actually know somebody who used to do that. They used to walk around in their house and yell their spiritual mind treatment because they were so mad that they didn't believe it and then they didn't feel it. And they would literally yell their spiritual mind treatment walking around the house So, in answer to your question, it's a beautiful question, Jeff. The answer to that is yes, yes, and yes. Only you know when you need to just allow your human self to feel the feelings that it's feeling. We don't use spiritual mind treatment to bypass feelings. We use our spiritual mind treatment to move forward and to affirm the end result we want. We don't use them to bypass feelings. If it's really a spiral that we're caught in, phone a friend. Use your lifeline, right? Phone a friend, phone a practitioner, get that lifeline going. Other times, I will tell you that when I'm the maddest or the most depressed, the most upset or the most angry are some of the most powerful times for me to do a spiritual mind treatment. Because exactly as you said, basically what I'm doing is I'm coaching myself into spiritual truth. And I'm not allowing myself to go down the rabbit holes of the false beliefs that are dragging me down. A false belief, dealing with a false belief is different than allowing ourselves to feel our feelings, right? Sadness at the coronavirus and the number of people that are dying and the increase in our people getting sick is a reasonable response. It is a rational human response. It is very sad, especially because we didn't necessarily need to be here. So that is very different than dealing with the false belief that I'm unworthy to do a spiritual mind treatment to change this condition. Do you see? And so, so we be sad, or clean anger, to be angry that Black people have been so dramatically, horrifically held down and held back. These are clean emotions. We don't use our spiritual mind treatment to get rid of the emotion. What we do is we use our spiritual mind treatment to confront our false beliefs, like it will always be this way. There's nothing I can do about it. It will never change. Or who do I think I am? And so, so only we know in any particular moment what's being called for us to do. All three of those responses that you outlined are appropriate in different situations. But if we are caught in a false belief and we begin to recognize that false belief, or we begin to see that this is not how we want to play it out, I will tell you, as you have probably experienced, that is one of the most powerful times to do a spiritual mind treatment, because you are interrupting the pattern in motion, and you're cutting across it and setting a new cause in motion. And because there tends to be a fair amount of conviction in that, even if it's like, no, by God, I am a part of this and I can speak my word. There's such conviction and passion in that you're building a new groove really powerfully in that moment, and redirecting all of that energy around I'm not worthy and what do I think I am and all that. You're redirecting that energy into a really powerful statement. And when I've done that, the place I end up after that spiritual mind treatment is really profound. And so we don't have to feel connected to start a spiritual mind treatment. We don't have to feel good to start a spiritual mind treatment. We don't have to feel powerful to start a spiritual mind treatment, right? Our spiritual mind treatment is the process that helps us move to that place, which is sometimes why, truthfully, I've done a spiritual mind treatment for 45 minutes or an hour, because that's how long it's taken me to show myself, convince myself, and move deeply into that place where I really know that what I'm saying is actually true and not just nice words that I'm saying to myself to make myself feel better, right? Feeling better isn't the point. The point is shifting our reality, shifting our consciousness, shifting the place that we stand in that particular moment. And I love that, that you said that too. I have taken up, in the last 6 months, I have taken up spiritual mind treatment every single day for the health of our planet, for the healing of climate change, and have had to confront how one person by themselves are going to do spiritual mind treatment and heal climate change. Well, I don't know. I think there's lots and lots and lots of people who are doing lots of work around climate change, but by God, I am going to contribute my consciousness, and I'm going to stop saying, ain't it awful, and I'm going to stop saying there's nothing we can do about it, and I'm going to stop saying it's inevitable, and I'm going to stop saying, oh my God, we're going to have some dystopian future. I am going to be part of the solution, and I've had to confront, well, who are you? Well, I'm a person who knows how to do spiritual mind treatment. That's who I am. And I'm a radiant, magnificent being of love and light, and I'm a part of the whole. And when I speak my word, that is like the universe speaking its word. And one person's word as the universe can absolutely shift and change everything. period, end of sentence. And so I keep doing that work. All right, see if we have a last comment. Otherwise, we'll do a spiritual mind treatment.
Yeah, I do have one last question.
Okay.
And this actually comes in from Reverend Karen's watch party. Shout out Reverend Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I know she'll be here later today actually doing the Q&A after our Sunday service. So the question comes from Debbie Hine, actually.
Hi, Debbie.
She says, please explain appreciation of demonstration further. Distinction between gratitude and appreciation?
So that's a great question. So gratitude is one of our steps of treatment, right? And we are grateful to know that the demonstration has happened, where we express gratitude, deep gratitude for our ability to use the law, the universal principle of law of cause and effect, to understand the creative process, to actively engage in it. And we're grateful that our word actually does manifest, right? So gratitude itself is a step. And of course, it's also a spiritual practice to have gratitude. To appreciate what the image means, what I think that means is to, how shall we say this without, say it differently, to embody the reality of the thing that we're doing our spiritual mind treatment for, and notice all the ways everything would change. So I know it's a silly example, but sometimes material examples are, I use them because they're easy to see, not because we think that, materialism is the way to go, right? But it's material. It's very, I can point to it. So a few years ago, I decided that I needed to replace my car. Some of you have heard this, right? And I decided I really wanted a convertible. My first car was an Austin Healey Sprite. I've had motorcycles and Miatas and things like that. And so I just really wanted a convertible and did some exploration. And I thought I wanted a Miata again. And a friend had a Miata that for sale, a used one. And we also looked at, some others, the BMW, the Acura, another one. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And I really thought, I'm going to have the Miata. I'm probably going to have the Miata. So I drove the Miata for a week or two, and I thought, oh man, I'm not 25 or 30 anymore. That Miata is small and low to the ground. I just don't know that I want to do that. And Karen would encourage me, what do you want? Why don't you get the BMW? And that was, of course, what I had in my mind, that maybe I would get the BMW. It took me 6 months to appreciate who I would be with a convertible BMW, as opposed to who I was as someone who, basically really has owned Hondas and has always thought that if I was actually going to get a convertible later in life, it might be a Volkswagen Bug. Right, two really different images, really different flavors, really different experiences. And to appreciate the image of myself would be like to accept that I was worth that, accept that I could have that, accept that that would actually shift my image of myself some. And I could enumerate the ways, but we don't have the time. All the limiting beliefs that I had about myself and about, it doesn't matter. And so I think to appreciate what the image means to really see the ways, all the ways in which things would change. So let's say we appreciate the image of ourselves as loving and peaceful. My spiritual mind treatment is about being loving and peaceful in my relationships. So to appreciate that would mean I would not be irritated. That would mean I would have patience when things didn't go well with someone else. That would mean I would no longer be able to use old behaviors that I had learned from my parents. Do you see? I'm appreciating all the ways things would change and are changed because I have done a spiritual mind treatment and I'm really doing my spiritual work about being love in a relationship. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's in that sense, it's not appreciation like I'm appreciating you for something XYZ. That would be gratitude. It's a great question. So we could all spend some time, really being with that this week. What does that mean to appreciate the image that we're creating in our spiritual mind treatment? All right. So should we do a quick spiritual mind treatment? What shall we do our spiritual mind treatment about? Let's see. There's lots of things to choose from, right? There's all kinds of things to choose from. I think we should do our spiritual mind treatment for divine right action happening on our planet at all levels. How about that? From the Black Lives Matter protests to the coronavirus to climate change to all the ways in which we could come together in a different way.
That's great, Petra, because I think that kind of sums up all the now inundated requests I've got.
Oh, really?
That's a perfect mind treatment.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to close with this spiritual mind treatment. I always like to take a moment to center myself, to drop into that place that is behind the condition, the human circumstance, that universal reality, an infinite reality. Life, unencumbered by form. The consciousness that is expressed through all of creation. And what causes consciousness to become creation? The impulse to express. Not just to be, but to become. That the infinite reality, the infinite consciousness is not fully engaged, not full-orbed until expression has happened. The universe or the multiverses, all of physical creation, the space-time continuum, the clothes that consciousness wears. And how does consciousness become creation? But through an divine intelligence, an infinite order. We call it the principle, the law of cause and effect. That as consciousness has an intention, an impulse of love to express itself, creation arises in perfect reflection of that impulse. So the impulse of life expresses as life. Love expresses as love. Joy and peace and wholeness and abundance and truth all express in creation, in the universal macrocosmic unfolding of life itself, of evolution, and all of the ways in which life explodes into being. And no matter where I look in the world, I see its order and its beautiful patterns being outpictured. Every cell knowing the pattern behind it. Every quasar and dark black hole and star and hummingbird knowing the pattern of creation behind its expression. We call that divine intelligence. That's what's happening all the time, everywhere. And because I know it's happening all the time, everywhere, I know it's happening right where I am, and I know it's happening right here on planet Earth, and I know it's happening for each and every one of us that is lending our consciousness to this spiritual mind treatment, to speak this truth, that there is a divine pattern for wholeness, there is a divine pattern for intelligence, there is a divine pattern for divine right action to be taking place. And as I see it in the macrocosm, so right now I see it right now expressing itself on planet Earth. I see it expressing itself through the healing of the coronavirus. I see it expressing itself through the Black Lives Matter, embracing that all of us absolutely are part of the whole, and that each group that needs expression has a space and a way to be fully embodied and fully accepted in their own right. Each place, each group, each idea. I know that we absolutely are moving in alignment with that divine right action. There is a perfect pattern for the health and wholeness of our planet, for our climate to come into resonance with its own nature, which is in balance, which is in harmony. And that everything that is required to restore that balance and harmony is now available. It's available in divine intelligence, and that divine intelligence is the impulse that moves through our leaders, our governments, our businesses, our corporations, everybody who is a part of impacting the planet. And that consciousness of care and stewardship of our planet is restored as the divine pattern of wholeness reasserts itself. Because that's the truth. There is a divine blueprint for life unfolding, for life growing and expressing. And that blueprint is showing up right now in each and every way that is required. In every place where it's required. I release any cynicism or skepticism about this. I release any belief that it can't be done. I release any belief that it's always been this way. I release all human limitation from this right here, right now, and recognize that it is the divine pattern that is restoring itself. And it is the divine intelligence that is moving. And it is divine right action that is taking place right here, right now. And because that's the truth that I know. That's the truth that I accept. Nothing less will do. I accept it as being restored at every level, from the quantum level to the atomic level, to the molecules, to the cells, to the organisms, to the social structures, to the largest level of the climate as a whole. Every level being restored through divine intelligence and divine right action into wholeness and alignment. And so I accept that as the truth. And because I accept it as the truth, I expect it to demonstrate. It is with gratitude that I speak these words for and about myself and each one of us here, for our planet as a whole. Grateful to have spoken these words. I know they are already done. And it is with deep gratitude that I release these words, knowing that the universal principles and laws are already making it so. I let it be. And so it is. There, see, now you can also see that for me, sometimes that's how spiritual mind treatment ends. I'm so deeply moved by the truth. Every cell in my being accepts it as true. And I trust that it is so. I bless you. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you in the celebration. We'll see you when we see you online. Much love. Bye for now.